Have you ever felt inexplicably exhausted after spending time with someone, as if your very life force had been sapped away? We've all encountered people who seem to drain us of our energy, leaving us feeling depleted and emotionally drained. Here we explore the signs that indicate you might be dealing with an energy vampire and how to protect yourself from their draining influence. Energy vampires often exude a persistent aura of negativity that can be incredibly draining for those around them. They seem to have an endless supply of complaints and grievances, viewing the world through a pessimistic lens that colors every interaction. These individuals tend to focus on problems rather than solutions, dwelling on what's wrong in their lives and the world at large. They may constantly criticize others, point out flaws, or bemoan their circumstances without taking any constructive action to improve their situation. When you're in the presence of an energy vampire, you might notice that conversations quickly turn sour. A simple discussion about the weather could spiral into a litany of complaints about how the sun is too bright, the rain is too wet, or the wind is too strong. This constant barrage of negativity can leave you feeling emotionally exhausted and drained of your own positive energy. Energy vampires often struggle to see the silver lining in any situation. They may dismiss your attempts to offer a more optimistic perspective, insisting that things are hopeless or that nothing ever goes their way. This pessimistic outlook can be contagious, potentially dragging you down into their negative mindset if you're not careful. It's important to recognize that while everyone has bad days and moments of frustration, energy vampires seem to exist in a perpetual state of dissatisfaction. Their negativity isn't just a temporary response to challenging circumstances, but a habitual way of interacting with the world. Being around someone who constantly complains and focuses on the negative aspects of life can be incredibly draining. You might find yourself expending significant emotional energy trying to cheer them up or offer alternative perspectives, only to have your efforts dismissed or met with more complaints. Over time, this constant exposure to negativity can take a toll on your own mental health and well-being. You might start to notice that you feel more pessimistic or irritable after spending time with an energy vampire, as their negative energy seeps into your own emotional state. Energy vampires often have an insatiable hunger for attention and validation from others. This constant need for external approval can manifest in various ways, all of which can be emotionally draining for those around them. One common behavior is the tendency to dominate conversations. An energy vampire might steer every discussion back to themselves, their problems, or their achievements. They may interrupt others, talk over people, or simply ignore what others are saying in their eagerness to share their own thoughts and experiences. These individuals often seek constant reassurance and compliments. They might fish for compliments by putting themselves down, hoping that others will contradict them and offer praise. Alternatively, they may boast about their accomplishments, seeking admiration and approval from their audience. Energy vampires may also create drama or crises to attract attention. They might exaggerate minor problems into major catastrophes, positioning themselves as the victim in need of support and sympathy. This behavior can be particularly draining, as it often requires others to drop everything and focus on the energy vampire's latest crisis. In relationships, energy vampires may be overly clingy or demanding. They might require constant contact, become jealous of time spent with others, or react negatively if they don't receive immediate responses to messages or calls. This neediness can leave their friends or partners feeling smothered and drained. The need for validation can also manifest as a constant need for agreement. Energy vampires may become upset or argumentative if someone expresses a different opinion or perspective. They might pressure others to see things their way, making it difficult to have genuine, balanced conversations. This excessive need for attention and validation can be exhausting for those around the energy vampire. You might find yourself constantly reassuring them, managing their emotions, or catering to their needs at the expense of your own well-being. Over time, This can lead to feelings of resentment and emotional burnout. It's important to note that while everyone needs some level of attention and validation, energy vampires take this to an extreme. Their demands can feel relentless and one-sided, leaving you feeling drained and emotionally depleted after interactions with them. Energy vampires often struggle with understanding and respecting personal boundaries. This disregard for others' limits can manifest in various ways, all of which can be incredibly draining for those on the receiving end. One common behavior is the tendency to overshare personal information, even in inappropriate settings or with people they barely know. They might divulge intimate details about their lives, relationships, or problems without considering whether the other person is comfortable or willing to hear such information. This can create awkward situations and leave others feeling burdened with unwanted knowledge. Energy vampires may also have difficulty respecting physical boundaries. They might stand too close during conversations, engage in unwanted touching, or invite themselves into personal spaces without permission. This disregard for physical boundaries can make others feel uncomfortable and invaded. Another way energy vampires violate boundaries is by making excessive demands on others' time and energy. They might call or message at all hours, expecting immediate responses regardless of the other person's schedule or commitments. They may also ask for favors or assistance without considering the impact on the other person's time or resources. In professional settings, energy vampires might ignore workplace boundaries by gossiping, prying into colleagues' personal lives, or expecting others to take on their responsibilities. This can create a stressful and unproductive work environment. Energy vampires often struggle with accepting no as an answer. When someone sets a boundary or declines a request, they might push back, guilt trip, or attempt to manipulate the situation to get their way. This persistent boundary pushing can be exhausting for those trying to maintain healthy limits. The lack of respect for emotional boundaries is another hallmark of energy vampires. They might dump their problems on others without considering the emotional impact, expect others to manage their feelings, or become overly involved in others' personal matters without invitation. Dealing with someone who consistently violates boundaries can be incredibly draining. It requires constant vigilance and assertiveness to maintain your personal space and limits. Over time, this ongoing boundary enforcement can leave you feeling exhausted and frustrated. It's important to remember that healthy relationships involve mutual respect for boundaries. While it's natural to sometimes need extra support or to occasionally overstep, energy vampires make a habit of disregarding others' limits, creating an imbalanced and draining dynamic. Energy vampires often employ manipulative tactics to control others and get their needs met, regardless of the emotional cost to those around them. These behaviors can be subtle or overt, but they all serve to drain the emotional resources of their targets. One common manipulative tactic is guilt tripping. Energy vampires may try to make you feel responsible for their happiness or well-being. They might say things like, "If you really cared about me, you would do this," or "I guess I'm just not important to you." This emotional manipulation can leave you feeling guilty and obligated, even when you've done nothing wrong. Another manipulation technique is playing the victim. Energy vampires may exaggerate their struggles or misfortunes to gain sympathy and support. They might constantly portray themselves as helpless or persecuted, expecting others to come to their rescue. This behavior can be particularly draining, as it often involves lengthy emotional conversations that leave you feeling responsible for solving their problems. Gaslighting is another manipulative tactic that energy vampires may use. This involves denying or distorting reality to make you doubt your own perceptions or memories. They might say things like, "That never happened," or "You're just being too sensitive," when you try to address issues in your relationship with them. This can be incredibly draining, as it erodes your confidence and makes you question your own judgment. Energy vampires may also use passive-aggressive behavior to manipulate others. This might involve giving the silent treatment, making subtle digs or backhanded compliments, or agreeing to things and then forgetting to follow through. These behaviors can create a tense and draining atmosphere, as you're constantly trying to decipher their true feelings or intentions. Another manipulative tactic is the use of emotional blackmail. Energy vampires might threaten self-harm or make other dramatic statements if they don't get their way. This puts enormous pressure on those around them, as they feel responsible for preventing a potential crisis. Some energy vampires use flattery and love bombing as a form of manipulation. They might shower you with compliments and attention, only to withdraw it when you don't meet their expectations. This hot and cold behavior can be emotionally exhausting and confusing. Dealing with these manipulative tactics can be incredibly draining. You might find yourself constantly second-guessing your actions, feeling guilty for setting boundaries, or exhausted from trying to manage the energy vampire's emotions. Over time, this can lead to a loss of self-esteem and a distorted sense of reality. It's crucial to recognize these manipulative behaviors for what they are: attempts to control and drain your emotional energy. By identifying these tactics, you can begin to protect yourself from their draining effects and maintain healthier, more balanced relationships. Energy vampires often create and maintain relationships that are fundamentally imbalanced, characterized by a lack of reciprocity that can be emotionally exhausting for the other party involved. These one-sided relationships are a key indicator that you may be dealing with an energy vampire. In these relationships, you might find yourself constantly giving your time, energy, emotional support, or even material resources, while receiving little to nothing in return. Energy vampires are often skilled at taking but struggle with giving back. They may be more than happy to accept your help, advice, or shoulder to cry on, but when you need support, they're nowhere to be found. Conversations with energy vampires tend to be one-sided affairs. They may dominate the discussion with their problems, experiences, or opinions, showing little interest in your thoughts or feelings. When you do manage to share something about yourself, they might quickly steer the conversation back to themselves or offer only token responses before launching into their own concerns. Energy vampires often have a knack for making their problems seem more important or urgent than anyone else's. They might dismiss or minimize your challenges while expecting you to drop everything to address their latest crisis. This constant prioritization of their needs over yours can leave you feeling undervalued and emotionally drained. In friendships with energy vampires, you might notice that you're always the one initiating contact or making plans. They may be enthusiastic about getting together when they need something, but are mysteriously unavailable when you need support or simply want to spend time together. This imbalance can leave you feeling used and unappreciated. Energy vampires may also exhibit a lack of empathy in relationships. While they expect others to be deeply invested in their emotional state, they may struggle to show genuine concern for others' feelings. This empathy gap can make interactions with them feel cold and unsatisfying. Financial imbalances can also be a sign of a one-sided relationship with an energy vampire. They might frequently forget their wallet, expect you to pay for things, or ask for loans without ever paying them back. This financial drain can add to the overall sense of being taken advantage of in the relationship. The lack of reciprocity extends to emotional labor as well. You might find yourself constantly managing their moods, walking on eggshells to avoid upsetting them, or spending hours helping them work through their problems. Meanwhile, they may show little interest in your emotional well-being or offer only superficial support. Over time, these one-sided relationships can leave you feeling depleted, undervalued, and resentful. You might realize that you're investing far more in the relationship than you're getting back, leading to emotional exhaustion and burnout. It's important to recognize that healthy relationships involve give and take from both parties. While there may be periods where one person needs more support than the other, a consistently one-sided dynamic is a clear sign that you may be dealing with an energy vampire. Recognizing the signs of an energy vampire is the first step in protecting your emotional well-being. From constant negativity and an excessive need for attention to boundary violations, manipulative behaviors, and one-sided relationships, these individuals can have a significant impact on our energy levels and overall happiness. By understanding these signs, you can begin to set healthy boundaries and protect yourself from their draining influence. Remember, it's not selfish to prioritize your own emotional health and well-being.